Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you how to bead weave this little decorative accent, which you can then turn into an earring, or I'm also going to go ahead and make these into a necklace as well. So there's a lot of things you can do with this design, and it's really very simple to make and quite fun actually. So what you'll need is these little spacer beads that have an extra loop. So it's a variation on your classic daisy spacer. It just has this little additional loop, which is going to make these super easy to connect. If you are going to connect them, you're going to need some jump rings. And then for this particular design, I have two colors of size 11/0 Delicas. And then I've got my needle, which has been threaded already with some FireLine smoke in size 0.006. And what that does is, if you can look at the finished example, you can barely see the thread, and that's what you really want to go for. You want the thread to just disappear. And so the smoke on this antique copper plate looks really good and it just blends right in. So what you'll need to do is, first off, go ahead and just place your needle all the way through that hole until you have a tail of about 6 inches. So take that tail, tie a simple knot, and then when you're pulling your knot down, pull it right up against the loop. Then go ahead and make a double knot and pull as well. Okay, so we're not going to cut off this tail because we're going to go back and need to use it again when we incorporate our thread back into our beadwork at the very end. So now take your needle. You can hold the thread out of the way if that's easiest, the tail part. And we're going to put 5 beads onto our needle. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slide them all the way down. And then we're going to go from the back side through the middle hole, and where we're going to want to pull our thread through, so it's going to make a little arch, and we want the last bead, the 5th bead, to rest on this junction between the 2 little decorative metal beaded sections of this daisy bead spacer. So now I'm going back through the 5th bead in the opposite direction and coming out, and you see how that's just resting right there, and we have our thread bridge, which is nice and laying flat. So now this time I only need 4 more beads because this is bead 1 already. So I'm going to put 4 beads onto my needle. Slide them down. Again, I'm going from the back side through to the front. And now I'm going to go up through that 5th bead again, which will suddenly become the 1st bead of my next beaded segment. It's almost like you're making petals at this point. So again, 4 more beads. And from the back to the front. And you want that 5th bead to rest between the metal beaded, these little metal beads that are the decorative edge of the daisy spacer. Back through it. If you need to, you want these to form points, so if you need to, you can help it along. And we're just going to do that all the way to the other edge of our loop. Okay, we're almost to the edge. One more, final one. So again, 4 beads. Slide them down, back to front. I'm going to go back through that last bead. Be careful on this one that your thread doesn't get caught right here on the other side of the loop. You want to make sure that you're able to pull it tight. So at this point, this is what we've got. Now this is actually the first part of the earring. And so if for this one, if you were making that first component, you would just tie off your thread at this point and incorporate your tails back into your beadwork. But I want to show you how to do this other edge. So to do the other edge, what we're going to do is we already went up through what was the 5th bead. So now we're going to go through the one next to it. Make sure you're continuously keeping your tension nice and tight. And then we're going to go through the bead next to it as well. So now, for me, it's a little easier since I'm right-handed. I just flipped it around to work going left to right. So now I'm going to add 5 of my other color. And then you'll notice the 5th bead in all of these arches or petals or whatever you want to call them sticks out a little bit. You can see that that comes to a little point. And so you want to go through that bead that is on the edge that's sticking out. So we just made almost like a double petal here. So you've got the first row and now we've got the second row. So now we're going to add another 5 beads. And when you start doing a lot of these, they're going to go really fast for you. So we've got 5 beads and we're going to go through the next, that middle top bead of the next petal. Okay. Again, 5 more. If you wanted to, you could do this on a daisy spacer that doesn't have that extra loop. It's just for this design. That's going to work really well and be very easy to connect these. But if you wanted to, you could of course just use another spacer bead. I'm just going through these middle arch beads, these middle top ones. And the tension of the thread and just how the beads are and the fact that we're using an odd number, they're creating this shape on their own. I'm not having to do anything special to create those pointed, like petal type shapes. So this is my final one. So I'm just going to do 5 more beads. Go through it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down through these last 2 beads of the blue as well. So conveniently, this actually gets us back to our original starting point where we have the thread, the tail end that we started with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie these 2 threads together. So I'm not removing my needle. I'm just going to tie a knot. And another one. You want to make sure that knot is secure. So now I'm going to take my thread, which has a needle on it, and I'm just going to go back up through some of my beadwork. Oops. If you've done beading, I'm sure you've had that happen where your fingers get caught and your beadwork goes flying. So go in any direction you want. Just make sure that you're retracing your original thread paths. I wouldn't want to go from here, like right over here and create, you know, it's so that you see the thread. You want to make sure that you're not seeing the thread. Just going back through. So what this is doing is it's incorporating your tail, but it's also reinforcing your beadwork. So you can do this for as long as you like. Okay, when you're happy, I have a thread zapper here. I'm just going to zap off the edge of my thread. Close to my beadwork, but making sure I don't zap my actual beadwork. So there's that. Now I'm going to take the needle off of this cut piece of thread, thread it onto my tail. It's the original tail I started with. And now I'm just going to incorporate this thread into my beadwork as well, same way. Now you can retrace the same thread path or you can retrace a different one. There we go, and I'm going to zap this off. Go. So I have this little component now, and then if you want to attach two of these together, all you're going to need to do is take a jump ring. I have a little 4mm jump ring right here, and we're going to open it up just like so. This is where that little extra loop really comes in handy. And then I'm just going to go actually through my beadwork. This is the center point, so I'm just going to go through it. There you go. And then I'll just close up the jump ring. Oops. Be careful, you don't want to accidentally crack a bead or anything, so just be patient. There we go. And now we have these two which are connected. And they dangle very nicely. So here's the finished piece again. You've got this great earring, and remember this was just the first part. This was step one, and then you just did an extra layer to do these more embellished pieces. And this project is available on Beadaholique.com under free projects in the earrings section.